For the second time this month, tow trucks set on fire in Brampton.
And police in all levels of government meet in Peel region to explore ways to deal with rising extortion and other threats emerging from the region.
Members of Toronto's Iranian community rally outside the U.S. consulate on University Avenue to call on President Trump to help.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Saab.
And I'm Phil Perkins. You're watching Live at 5. Our top story, a summit on combating extortion and other emerging threats in Peel region was held in Brampton today.
Federal, provincial, and local leaders attended, along with law enforcement officials. CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan has more on what came out of today's summit. Steve, good evening. We have to start off with this. What is a typical extortion in Peel?
Yeah, great question. And I did ask the chief here in Peel region earlier on today, what does his officer see as a typical investigation when it comes to extortion? There are different criminal offenses that can be committed when you are extorting somebody, but he said basically it is the threat of violence in wanting payment. So typically up here in Peel region, what's happening is local businesses are being threatened, and this starts at the mom and pop shops all the way up to very wealthy businesses. It doesn't matter. The victims are the owners of the businesses. They are being targeted, and they are being threatened with violence if they don't come up with cash, and sometimes it's upwards of $1 million to $4 million. So at this conference today, we heard from the feds, we heard from the province as well. The Solicitor General is here representing the province of Ontario, local politicians, and the police, Peel Regional Police, and the RCMP, and the chief of Peel Regional Police reinstated his service's commitment to combating extortions, and there was $1 million being given to the Peel Regional Police by the feds today to add to their successful operation that's going on right now with over 30 officers dedicated to investigating over 400 extortion cases. Here's more from the chief and from the local MP, Ruby Sahota, who I heard from and spoke with earlier on as well. Let's hear from both.
There is an acute problem of extortions here in Peel, with over 470 in the last calendar year alone just in Peel. And it continues to see a surge. It's very unique to our geographic area. So the support that may appear very localized is actually going right to where the source of the issues are at the moment. So that will allow us to actually coordinate better with our policing partners and be better equipped in that space. So that is essentially why the value of it, certainly to us in Peel, is critical.
Most of them are South Asian Canadians, but this is transnational crime, and every type of crime that we are seeing these days is transnational, and people are being connected to the United States and California. They're being connected to other countries around the world, as well as to India, and there are people who are being paid on the ground to take part in, the shootings, the threatening violence, but not always are the actors that are making the calls located here in Canada. So it ranges.
So as you heard the MP say there, it is the South Asian community that's being targeted predominantly. There are a lot of hard-working businesses in Peel region, in North Brampton, into Caledon, mom-and-pop shops, as well as some very wealthy businesses. And the MP said to me that what she is noticing is that these businesses are being targeted by organized crime within the South Asian community and overseas as well. And she said that her office, guys, receives 2 calls per week from people in her constituency saying that they have been victims of an extortion.
And Steve, as you mentioned, and they mentioned there, it's a South Asian community there, and it's not new. It's been happening in BC months ago, for over a year now. And so, What's the plan from the federal and provincial governments? Because I've done a good amount of research into this. Apparently, some of these organized crime leaders, one of them is organizing these things from a cell phone in jail in India. Like, so what's the federal government supposed to do?
So, great question. The feds are providing monies to the province, and the province is giving money to the local municipalities as well. The federal government said today that they are dedicated to addressing this issue. So all levels of government are on board. And as we heard from Peel's police chief say there, that they certainly don't do these investigations in a silo. There is a collaboration between all police services across the country. The RCMP were here today, so they are certainly aware of what's going on. And oftentimes it's just a phone call. The victims are receiving a phone call or an email saying that their business is going to be threatened unless they come up with a lot of cash. So it's an ongoing problem, but it is something that the police services across the country are dealing with, as are all levels of government.
Okay, live in Brampton, CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Well, more charges have been laid against a Welland man accused of shooting a Niagara police officer and being involved in a day-long standoff.
59-year-old Daniel Tronco now facing 20 charges, including 6 counts of attempted murder with a firearm in connection with the incident on the morning of December 19th. Police say officers responded to a home on 2nd Street to assist with bylaw enforcement when shots were fired. An officer was hit in the chest, but fortunately, she survived. The suspect then barricaded himself in a home for about 24 hours before surrendering.
For the second time this month, tow trucks have been set on fire in Brampton.
Yeah, this happened overnight at a business on Rutherford Road. For the latest on this arson investigation, let's bring in CP24's Beatrice Vaisman. Beatrice.
Yeah, Phil Bakari, we've been talking about tow truck turf wars all across the GTHA, not for months or weeks, but for years now here on CP24. And of course, we don't know what the motive is in this particular investigation, but Peel Police have confirmed this is an arson investigation, multiple vehicles damaged. You might be able to see the damage to one of the white cube vans here in this parking lot behind me. Nothing but charred, twisted metal left. But security camera footage that we obtained first thing this morning, I mean, really, it paints exactly not only a picture, the reality of what happened here. One suspect in that video walking around the parking lot of this business, pouring some liquid on the ground, especially around the red tow truck on your screen, before moving to the other vehicles. Moments later, the vehicles, including those 2 tow trucks, go up in flames. The suspect takes off. Peel Police saying that in more video surveillance footage that they've observed, there's a second suspect involved. So now they're looking for 2 people involved in this arson investigation. No descriptions of the suspects have been made available, but quite clearly in the video, these 2 people pouring, now we know, is an accelerant around these vehicles and setting them on fire. Here's more from Peel Police.
In this footage, it depicts 2 individuals, one of which isn't seen on camera, and the second individual is wearing a white shirt, gray pants, as well as white shoes. Both individuals were seen pouring gasoline on and around the heavy tow trucks. As a result of them pouring that gasoline on those tows, the other vehicles in the area were set on fire as well. We're asking for anyone who has any additional evidence to contact our Criminal Investigation Bureau with 22 Division.
And of course, when I mentioned the tow truck turf wars, I mean tactics like intimidation, sometimes violence used in the midst of this battle over business in the towing industry. So Peel Police will be looking for a motive here, in addition, obviously, to those 2 suspects, but to figure out why those suspects did this and were they instructed to do this as well. As for the people involved, I mean, certainly it impacts their livelihood. We talked to the owner of this white cube van, who's a food delivery driver, and he says it's going to cost him a lot of money. Here's more.
Everybody knows, like that tow trucking company, I don't know, like what type of issue they have with each other. I don't know. Maybe like some other company, they did it. I don't know. But you know, like there is no my fault. Like
you're kind of caught up in that.
Yeah.
How bad would you say the damage is to the vehicle you drive?
Like box is totally damaged. I can see it's. But when I will get my truck back, then I will bring it to my mechanic. He will let me know, but I can see the box is totally damaged, so minimum $30,000-$40,000. And even like for 3-4 weeks, I'm out of my job. I have only 1 truck.
And when you mentioned this is now the second time this month that Peel Police have an arson investigation involving tow trucks. The last one, January 5th, over at Rutherford and Glidden, not far from where we're standing tonight. So 2 times in the new year, a very similar scenario, and now Peel Police trying to figure out if these two cases of arson, are actually connected. Back to you guys.
Quite the trend. All right, thank you very much, Beatrice. Okay, let's take a look at traffic right now. Here's Adrian Yabo. How's it looking?
Well, Phil, you know, rain's coming down, so it's not looking too good. It's really reducing visibility, and we have problems in the mix. So the eastbound lanes of the 401, it's at the start of the ramp that takes you to Brock Road. These problems have been there from before the rain, so they've been there for a while. So the left lane and shoulder is blocked. It's creating a bit of a delay, and actually this problem is backing up that delay onto the eastbound 401 from well before Liverpool as you navigate through the wet stuff. Also soggy and slow on the DVP north and southbound. You're looking at delays between Bayview Bloor and the 401, and not as wet and soggy, but very slow on the Gardner, particularly on the westbound side exiting the downtown core, anywhere from York Bay Yonge in sections all the way out towards Kipling. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
All right, it's 5:10, 4 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming back, riders on the Finch West LRT continue to deal with issues. And today, Premier Doug Ford weighed in on the new transit line and provided another update on the opening date for the Eglinton Crosstown. Will it be faster?
Thousands of Iranians gathered outside the U.S. consulate to denounce the deadly protest in Iran and call on President Trump to help.
Iranian Canadians have not been able to contact their families in almost a week now due to an internet and text message blackout. No landlines either. It comes amid a violent government crackdown on widespread protests against Iran's crumbling economy and soaring inflation. At today's rally, people say it's time for a regime change.
Human rights groups in Iran are reporting at least 2,000 protesters have been killed in the arrest. And people at today's rally in Toronto say that they've heard the actual number significantly higher.
We all want the same thing. We just want the freedom. We want our families to be okay. We want everyone to be okay. And this has not been happening since a long time ago. And all we want is just basic human rights.
There's nothing that people can do anymore in Iran. They don't have any power to continue just being in the streets and killed.
Sanction needs time. We don't have time. It's now or never. The people of Iran needs something now, and it needs action, not just empty words.
We are not politicians, so I don't think that we can specify the things that he can do, but we want all the things that he can do, and especially meeting with our exiled king, Reza Pahlavi, so that all the world knows that we want him as the next leader of our country.
It's like you are at the middle of nowhere. It's like you are in an island and no any connection and feel frustrated. You don't know where to go. And my physical body is here. Soul, thought, our emotion always there. We are lost. I'm feeling lost.
This whole thing started because we were not allowed to show our hair. They would kill us for that. We're not allowed to sing or dance as a woman. We're gonna get killed. Not only that, the economy that they made for us, it's just, I don't know if you know, but we have to finance oil. I'm not talking about gasoline, I'm talking about cooking oil, vegetable oil. We don't have money to feed our children. And this time, Iranians gathered together for our future generation, because yes, we handled somewhat, but there's no possible way that we can continue doing this.
And Ottawa has updated its travel advisory for Iran. It previously warned against all travel to Iran, but is now going even further with a message for Canadians who may be in the country. An alert reads in part, quote, "You should leave Iran now if you can do so safely." Many airlines have suspended flights to and from Iran at this time, but there are overland crossing options. The land border with Armenia and Turkey are open, and Canadian passport holders don't require a visa to enter these countries. Our ability to provide consular services in Iran is extremely limited.
Okay, the Finch West LRT continues to deal with a series of issues since it opened last month. And today, Premier Ford was asked about those problems.
Well, CP24's Andrew Brennan joins us live with more. Andrew.
Yeah, so this is a complicated issue, much like transit can be for a lot of folks, guys. So let's break down what is happening and also how seemingly challenging it's been to drive the LRT since it opened on December 7th. So going back to December 7th, for the first month, just the first month, using some data thankfully compiled by the Toronto Star and then adding to it a couple of days. In the first month, so again, 31 days, there was at 15, so almost 1 in 2 days in the first month of the LRT being on Finch, that there was at least a major disruption or that there were no service whatsoever. And that, again, is just in the first month. We have heard from the opposition parties at Queen's Park that ultimately what they're looking for is some sort of public inquiry. They want Metrolinx to be investigated as to why, for instance, some of the electrical heating switches were still being electric, not gas, which had potentially, according to some of the inquiry done when Ottawa had its problems with its LRT so many years ago, that this is one of those things that maybe could have been done or believed to potentially should have been done, according to some in the opposition party. But having it not done, they want questions as to why. Could this have been a reason why there's so many delays? By the way, we did reach out to Metrolinx for a response, didn't get one as of now. So that's a lot of the backstory as we do hear about these disruptions happening quite literally 1 out of every 2 days for the first month or so of this new line for Toronto, the first one to open in 3 decades. But when we hear from the Premier, and you also hear him being asked, should there be an inquiry into what's happening with Metrolinx? Should there be something specific to the LRT? He is saying here that he believes there will be bumps along the road, or the track in this case, but he believes, at least he says, that things will work out. Listen to this.
I wouldn't say they're non-stop. You always have kinks in the rails, excuse my pun there, but once they start moving, they'll start moving pretty smoothly. But I always, rather than always talking about the negative, I like talking about the positive. As I was telling our friends from Michigan, that we're building the largest transit system in North America.
And according to the opposition NDP, guys, it's not about not looking at the positives that we're building more. It's the question is, was it done the right way the first time? So we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the show, and potentially an update on the Eglinton LRT too. It's not much of an update, but we'll talk later.
We shall. All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. It is 5:18. Feels like -2. You're watching Live at 5.
Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow says that help for the city's renter, it's coming in this year's proposed budget. We're going to take a look at that coming up. Mayor Olivia Chow is touting how the city's proposed budget is going to help Toronto renters. Chow says that the budget will provide $10.8 million for the rent bank, which is almost double the amount since she took office in 2023. The rent bank provides grants to help tenants make their monthly payments, cover arrears, or secure new housing. The mayor says that the budget will also include money to prevent evictions for more than 1,000 households through case management and rent subsidies.
Rent Bank is part of the anti-homelessness initiative at the City of Toronto. Almost 9,000 people, representing 4,500 households across the city, find support to keep them housed through the city's eviction prevention and community program and the housing benefit program.
Housing is good health care. We know from decades of research that people who are chronically unhoused live half as long as the general public. So that's 30 to 40 birthdays that people are foregoing. This is the most powerful social determinant of health that we see in the clinical and population health realm. And it's unimaginable for people to think about a loved one losing 10 to 20 or 30 years of life.
Chow says that the increased funding for the rent bank will support 2,800 families in the city.
But also, a new report shows that homelessness is actually getting worse in the province. An estimated 85,000 people were without a home last year. This is according to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. More than half of those people are experiencing periods of homelessness of 6 months or longer. There were also nearly 2,000 encampments in 2025. Researchers say funding for housing and homelessness supports has increased, but not at pace with the issue itself. They say billions in additional investment is needed for affordable housing, emergency shelters, and mental health programs.
it's really a problem across the province. Homelessness has always been a challenge in large urban centers and continues to be. There's actually been significant progress made in areas like Toronto in addressing some of the really big encampments that were creating public safety and health issues. The really surprising numbers, though, are coming out of rural and northern Ontario. We saw homelessness increase 30% in rural communities across Ontario and 37% in just 1 year in the north.
The AMO says that the report highlights the need for all levels of government to take action to strengthen Ontario's social safety net.
Well, Food Banks Mississauga is celebrating a successful holiday drive.
Well, the organization says it raised around $3.2 million, marking the most the community has ever contributed to a single campaign. Food Banks Mississauga says this surpasses its $3 million goal and will help address rapidly growing needs. The food bank saw 503,000 visits last year. That's a 400% increase compared to before the pandemic. The organization says it is bracing for even more demand this year as food costs continue to go up. And with that, the CEO of Food Banks Mississauga, Megan Nichols, says that the support will help her organization meet the rising need for the next coming months.
And I think it really speaks to the fact that my neighbors in Mississauga care about their neighbors. And folks have stepped up and understood that the demand for food bank services, the degree of poverty in our community has really risen. And so what used to take a lot less, 5-6 years ago, now this is kind of what it takes to keep an operational food bank network going in the city. And so I'm really proud of my community for stepping up to the challenge to make sure we have enough food and funds to continue to serve people in the months to come.
The organization says that it is bracing for even more demand in 2026 as food costs continue to rise.
It is at 5:25, feels like -2. Watch it live at 5.
And coming up, one of the biggest K-pop bands in the world coming right here to Toronto this summer. The NHL and its players union got a sneak peek at the unfinished main rink for next month's Olympics.
Now, crews are scrambling to finish building the arena in time for the Milano Cortina Games, which start in just over 3 weeks. The inside of the venue remains under construction, with hospitality areas and locker rooms still not done. This past weekend, the players and the league took in the test game that was between Italy's top teams. They said that they were pleased with the event and will continue to monitor progress and stand ready to consult and advise if needed.
Okay, one of the biggest K-pop bands in the world coming to Toronto this summer.
Fresh off their mandatory military service in South Korea, so you know they're nice and buff. BTS is embarking on a world tour in April. The North American leg of that tour includes 2 concerts in Toronto. BTS will play Rogers Stadium, not Center, on August 22nd and 23rd. Pre-sale begins January 22nd. Tickets go on sale to the general public January 24th. The K-pop megastars have been on break since 2022.
All right, it is 5:28, 4 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Police say several tow trucks were set on fire in Brampton overnight. We'll have the latest on the search for suspects coming up. Another case of tow trucks being set ablaze in Brampton.
And police and all levels of government, they meet in Peel to explore ways to deal with rising extortion and other threats emerging from the region.
And members of Toronto's Iranian community rally outside the U.S. consulate on University Avenue to call for President Trump to help.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening, I'm Phil Perkins.
I'm Bakari Savage. Welcome to Live at 5. Another arson investigation in Brampton involving 2 tow trucks.
The latest fire happening overnight at a business on Rutherford Road. For the latest, let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Vaisman. Beatrice.
Phil, Bakari, this is actually the 3rd tow truck fire in Brampton. Pretty close proximity since the start of the year, which obviously has tow truck drivers and other people associated to them feeling quite unnerved by what has happened. The video surveillance footage that we obtained in relation to this particular arson overnight, and Peel Police confirmed that it is in fact an arson investigation, happened around 3 o'clock in the morning here at Rutherford near Orenda, and it shows one person in this video walking around several vehicles pouring some liquid that police have since said is gasoline around the tow truck, specifically the red tow truck here, and then moments later, the vehicles are engulfed in flames. The flames spreading to two other vehicles, including a black SUV and a white cube van, a white food delivery truck. The owner of that food delivery truck now saying his livelihood is at stake. He described seeing more video of this incident. Listen.
There was a guy on the road, like he came behind the building from the main road, and he put some like oil. There is two tow trucks like parked, and he put the oils to both of them. But you know, my truck is parked next, so my truck is also got fired.
Another incident Peel police are investigating, quite similar, close in proximity. This one at Rutherford and Glidden happened back on January 5th. Police saying very similar situation there. And so they're wondering if there is, in fact, a connection between these two cases of arsons. Thankfully, no injuries in either case, but police now looking for a motive and seeing if there is, in fact, a way to connect the two, either based on suspects, getaway vehicle, or even a connection in terms of who asked for it, who ordered this, and who's responsible. Here's more from the Peel Regional Police Constable who talked to reporters this morning.
Obviously, given the fact that it is tow trucks that were targeted, the timing and the location makes our investigators look at comparisons between the two. But at this time, we don't have any evidence to substantiate that both investigations are related. However, our investigators will actively be looking to see if there is some connection.
And then here at Rutherford and Queen, on January 3rd, another incident of tow trucks being set on fire. So certainly people who own and operate tow trucks here in Brampton feeling quite unnerved. We spoke to the owner of the black tow truck earlier today. He says this is the first time something like this has happened. He's feeling hurt. He says, I don't have any problems with anyone, so I'm not sure why this has happened. But certainly Peel Police will be looking to get to the bottom of this arson and the others impacting people here in this area.
All right, thank you very much, Beatrice. Well, a summit on combating extortion and other emerging threats, also in Peel Region, was held in Brampton today.
Federal, provincial, and local leaders attended, along with law enforcement officials. CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan has more on what came out of today's summit. So, Steve, we have to start with this. Why is extortion such a hot topic in this area?
Well, because it's prevalent in Brampton into Caledon, rather, and it's a specific community, according to the local MP who represents North Brampton, Caledon, Ruby Sahota. She's also the Secretary of State responsible for combating crime, and she says it's a South Asian community that's being targeted. It's all the way from mom and pop shops, businesses, that is, to some very lucrative businesses. They're being targeted by South Asian gangs, both in Canada and abroad, and they are being extorted. And I spoke with the Peel Police Chief earlier on today at this summit, and he said typically for his investigators, the extortion consists of the business receiving communication, whether it be a phone call or an email or a text message even, and it is threatening violence towards family members or the business itself if money is not paid. And the MP Sahota said to me that sometimes the demands for cash can range anywhere from $1 million upwards of $4 million. And it is something that the Peel Police are certainly taking quite seriously. And they've got an investigative team that is looking after over 400 extortions that have been reported last year. Here is more from Peel's Police Chief, who spoke at the summit today, and more from Ruby Sahota, the local MP, again, who's also the Secretary of State responsible for combating crime. Here's more from the two of them.
Extortions aren't just localized. In these cases, they are transnational criminal networks operating across borders, exploiting global communication platforms, moving finances and money internationally. And these networks take advantage of those vulnerabilities of geospatial instability, economic pressures, and the diaspora and the connections in these communities that are causing harm.
We're hearing amounts like today I heard 5 million. Some are being extorted for 1 million. And then, there's a negotiation that takes place. The trend that we're starting to see now is they're shooting first and sending the voice note or WhatsApp call later on. And oftentimes they are connecting themselves to some type of popular organized gang that has roots in India or here.
Sahota also said to me that her constituency office receives 2 calls per week from her constituents claiming that they have been victims of an extortion. So it is something that certainly is catching the attention of the federal levels of government, provincial and municipal, and of course the police services across the country as well, guys.
Yeah, Steve, it should be catching their attention. I know for a fact it's been happening out west for months now, before it even hit in Ontario. And I got to ask, have they talked about at this conference how these alleged gangsters even got here in the first place?
Not how they got here, but what the focus was on was the MO, how they carry out these threats. And again, it's done simply, sometimes just through simple communication on the phone or through an email, or as you heard the MP say there, now it's escalating to where there's been reports of shots being fired at a business or a home, and that's the intimidation factor coming before the threat is made and the request for cash. So investigators are certainly following up on all leads that are provided with regards to these investigations. A lot of this work is done covertly as well. So a lot of what is being done throughout the investigative world, you're not seeing. It's done behind the scenes, but there certainly are some good leads being made. And of course, if you are a victim of extortion, police are certainly encouraging you to give them a call. And the last piece of advice the police provided was, do not give in. Call the police, and they certainly will look into all complaints. So back to you guys.
Live in Brampton, CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Well, it's 5:38. Let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa Nsiah-Yabwa.
Thank you so much, Bakari. And, a little bit of light rain coming down, so it's made for a slower than normal commute, even for this time of day. So using the DVP, usually at this hour, drive starts to improve. It's not because of the light rain that was coming through. So if you're on the northbound side of things, delays start from Bayview Bloor up to the 401. And then once you're on the 401, depending on where you're heading, you are running into either rain or dry roads, but it is a busy go just the same across the top of the city at this point. And northbound on the 427, we're seeing some heavy rain. Looks like it's started to subside, but the delays are still there, pretty much from Dundas all the way up towards the 401. On city streets, we're dealing with a collision on Eglinton and Mimico Creek. I'm going to send it over to Samantha at the TTC Transportation Center to see what's going on transit. Anything happening, Samantha?
Thanks, Adjoa. So we do have an issue currently going on along our Line 1 Young University. Service has been suspended between our York Mills and Eglinton stations for a mechanical issue on the train at Lawrence Station. So crews have been dispatched and are working to get that cleared as quickly as possible to get you on your evening commute. Now, looking at service later tonight, we do have a planned subway closure on the portion of Line 1 between Finch and Eglinton stations starting at 11 p.m. for planned tunnel work. So shuttle buses will be running along Yonge Street in that area, with regular service resuming tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Now, for more transit updates, visit ttc.ca or follow TTC notices on X. Back to you.
Okay, thanks, Samantha. Well, the Finch West LRT continues to deal with a series of issues since it opened last Monday. Today, Premier Ford was asked about those problems.
Yeah, CP24's Andrew Brennan joins us live with more on this. Andrew, what do you say?
Well, it's not what I think. It's the impression that riders have, guys. And one thing that we've had as I've been along Finch, let's see, the first, not the first day, but the first incident we had, which was on the first weekend. I've talked to people that have been saying things, basically that their impressions are not, let's just say, as enthusiastic as the hope that they had when they originally thought that they were getting a new lineup here. Now, when we do talk to people, that's one thing, but when you talk about numbers, that does also paint a picture that's a little bit more definitive here. It's not about impressions. So when you look at the Finch LRT, since it opened on December the 7th, compiling numbers using service alerts from the TTC, the Toronto Star got the first 29 days, and I did a few extra to get to the month. And 1 out of every 2 days, 15 of 31 days that the LRT was in operation here on Finch for December 7th to the 6th of January, there was 15 days of those 31 that there was a major service disruption or the service was completely out of service for a long duration. Now, we've had issues with track work or really signals on the tracks, and partially looking at the heaters for those signal switchers. That was one thing that was looked at with the Ottawa LRT when it had all of its trouble, and something that the official opposition at Queen's Park has said that they think that that Metrolink should have known about this and done more to proactively stop potentially some of these disruptions from happening. So they're calling for an investigation, an inquiry at Queen's Park to see what's been going on at Metrolinx. We did reach out for a statement to see if they have anything to say right now. No update there. But with all of this in mind, guys, I know we're talking about the Finch LRT, but the Eglinton LRT has been under construction for twice the length of time as Finch, still not in operation. We asked the Premier about that as well as this.
Yeah, we're leaving that up to the TTC. We'll be there to support them. We'll be there for the announcement. I'm not one to put an exact date, but I'm guessing if everything goes smooth, it'll be the first couple of weeks in February, and I can't wait. That thing's been a nightmare for me.
So maybe the end of February, maybe. We'll have to see about that. Also not getting much in terms of an answer from the Premier right now on whether he believes there should be an inquiry. He says a lot of these issues should figure themselves out as this thing gets up and running for a little bit longer than a month. I'll send it back to you both.
Okay, reporting live, CP24's Andrew Brennan. It's 5:43, 4 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Up next, Toronto's Iranian community holding a rally today outside the U.S. consulate, now protesting America but asking for help.
A large rally downtown this afternoon. Members of Toronto's Iranian community gathered outside the U.S. consulate. This was on University Avenue.
It was a show of solidarity with protesters in their homeland. CTV's Toronto, Rahim Ladani, joining us live with more on the demonstration. Rahim, as we said before the break, they're not protesting the U.S. and Donald Trump. They actually want his help.
Hi, Phil. Bakari, good to speak with you. Good evening. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Phil. They are wanting the help of the United States and U.S. President Donald Trump, who has already threatened military action against the Islamic regime in Iran. And that's what a lot of people here are hoping for to follow through. I mean, for several hours this afternoon, this entire section in front of the U.S. consulate was flooded with individuals. The crowd size grew well into the thousands, and it was a very passionate rally. There were people shedding tears, others visibly angry, standing with the people in solidarity in Iran. For a lot of people here, this is not just a global story. This is a personal story for them, because many of them have family members, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles who are there who they haven't even had the chance to hear from for several days because of the communications blackout. I spoke with several individuals. One woman told me she actually left in 1987. Her dad stayed in Iran. Her and her mother fled to Canada, and she hasn't been back since. In fact, I want you to take a listen to what some of the other individuals who are here had to say.
I have my family there. I haven't reached out to them in 5 days. I don't even know if they're alive or not. And you wouldn't know unless it happens to you. People show sympathy, but all we can do right now is just talk about it, to spread the news and to let them know that this is way bigger than us. People out there are being killed every single day, and they're fighting for something bigger, for our next generation, for our future, for a better future.
We need action right now, not just talk, not just talk. We need immediate action, and it's so urgent.
I have no news about my close family members in Iran, but I'm really, really, really hoping that these days are the last days of the regime. Now, Phil, you mentioned off the top that the people here are asking for the United States help. So let's talk a little bit about that. They were chanting, Trump change now, Trump act now, because the U.S. president has talked about enforcing military action potentially. And for the individuals here, they say that Donald Trump is the only person, the only world leader who has spoken up about this issue. Now, I did ask a lot of them to say, do you believe that the president has the best interest of Iranians in mind? And one gentleman told me, we have no other choice. No one else is listening. These people are not focused on what's going to happen a week or a month from now and the potential fallout. Right now, they want the violence in Iran to end, because the longer it goes on, the more deaths that are taking place right now. And so there's a lot of passion, a lot of hurt right now on the streets of Toronto from the Iranian community. And Bakari and Phil, these individuals here, they're asking all Canadians not to turn a blind eye, but to be invested in this so that they can stand with their Iranian Canadians.
Okay, reporting live, CTV's Rahim Ladani. Thank you. It's 5:48, 4 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Well, McDonald's making a price freezing pitch in a bid to draw in Canadian consumers. We'll take a closer look at this with food professor Sylvain Charlebois.
McDonald's making a price freeze pitch in a bid to draw in Canadian consumers.
Yeah, the fast food giant says that it'll keep the price of a small cup of coffee at $1 for at least a year. It's also dropping the price of its McValue meals by $1 to $5 for the same amount of time. The move comes as McDonald's has faced criticism from customers upset about how much the cost of dining at the chain has risen in recent years.
Okay, for more on this marketing move by McDonald's, we're joined live by Sylvain Charlebois, professor and director of Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. Okay, Sylvain, first off, Happy New Year. We're starting off 2026 with a lower price at McDonald's. Good thing, bad thing. What is happening?
McDonald's is declaring war. Absolutely. It is a price war that begins today. In fact, we saw that back in 2013, 13 years ago. McDonald's did the same thing, basically. And, well, the war lasted about 2 years. Guess who won? McDonald's, of course. So I wouldn't bet against McDonald's, but this is certainly good news for consumers looking for a quick fix in QSR, in quick service, for sure. Wendy's, Burger King's, they've already actually responded to McDonald's, but McDonald's is by far the biggest player. So the tone has been set, and it's going to impact the entire industry for quite some time.
So how's it going to do it? We're just going to get copycats in the same fast food industry, or could we see that spread out to, as Bakari was mentioning off air, grocery stores freezing prices, actual bars and restaurants, not fast food?
Yeah, because not everybody eats fast food.
That's correct.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's basically in QSR, so non-service, quick service. That space is likely to get more competitive. And so what I'm expecting from competitors are combos at a rebate, at a discount, coupons being sent out, things like that. So McDonald's is basically making things very simple for a year, because since the end of the last price war, we did see many increases since then, and they lost a little bit of traffic. Revenues are still there, profits are still there, but you see some softening in the marketplace. The difference between the last price war and this price war is that right now consumers are hurting. Prices are much higher, and consumers are much more careful with the money they spend outside the home, and McDonald's knows that.
Yeah, okay, so you say Wendy's, Burger King, they're all kind of doing a similar thing as well. Nutritional value versus going to the grocery store. This is the last question.
Yeah, no, well, if you go to McDonald's every day, I would say not a good idea. But once in a while, if you want to indulge and take advantage of some of those deals, of course, it's a good idea. I mean, they do offer a quick service. But at the end of the day, there's something for everyone at McDonald's, generally speaking. But those deals are going to be attractive, and we're expecting more foot traffic at McDonald's as a result.
All right, we'll see. Sylvain Charlebois, looking at you, I don't think you eat a lot of fast food. You look lean and mean, my friend. You look like you're a marathon shape.
I eat and spin. I run.
Oh, you're a spin guy. Okay, that's good. That's good. Get the engine going. Thanks so much. Chat soon. It is 5:55. Feels like -1. You're watching Live at 5.
All right, coming up, a recruiting company has come up with a list of the most in-demand jobs in Toronto. We're going to take a look at the list next. With the emergence of AI and changes in the labor market, a lot of people are wondering what career paths are the safest bet.
Obviously, news anchor. Recruiting company Randstad Canada is highlighting the most in-demand jobs this year, led by healthcare, of course, we're all getting older, admin, and retail. The report finds that employers are looking for workers who can navigate both technology and emotional intelligence.
Well, in Toronto specifically, the top 5 most in-demand jobs: administrative assistant, bookkeeper, office administrator, truck driver, and financial analyst.
Yeah, I think you got to be open, especially if you're starting just in your career, and be open to learning, growing, and making those career pivots as you start to learn and understand what ultimately do you want to focus on and what areas do you want to grow in. So be open-minded as you explore the job market. And also, too, it's about building relationships and networking wherever the organization that you work in. There's some phenomenal people that could open up the doors for you in the future, right? So don't just think now, think about how you can build those long-term relationships for future growth.
Other jobs in high demand across Canada include dental assistants, nurses, pharmacy assistants, and forklift operators. I feel like a robot can do that, but okay.
All right, it's 5:59, 4 degrees. This is Toronto's Breaking News, CP24.
Thanks for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.